Whitburn pulls up for three. Boom! Knocks it down.
Curry from the corner at three. Puts it in.
For overtime, makes it going. Right.
Welcome to the MVP cast from me, Mark Woods. As always, a pleasure to have your company. You can follow us, of course, on social media and get your basketball news. We're on Twitter at MVP_247, or you can search MVP cast on Facebook and Instagram. Now, our guest is one of our top young players, thankfully, playing here on home soil. She just returned from pulling on a Great Britain jersey once again in the EuroBasket Women qualifiers, and over a time win over Portugal last weekend, followed by a loss in Greece. Not quite over qualifying hopes, so fingers crossed for the rest of the campaign. But now it's back to WBBL duty this weekend with the Sheffield Hatters. Georgia Gayle, welcome to the MVP cast.
Thank you.
Let's talk about the GB games. I mean, a win and a loss, but overtime against Portugal was a thrilling game to follow. Then Greece, just that last few minutes in the fourth quarter where the game got away from you guys. But I mean, how do you first win on the board of the campaign, which is good. How did you feel about the performances?
I think it's definitely a positive and something to continue to build on. It's always hard going into windows because sometimes some players can't get released or, injuries and stuff like that. So you don't always know what you're going into the windows with. We had some new faces in there that definitely made a positive impact. And again, I think it's a great building block ready for February to hopefully get 2 wins at home to continue those hopes of qualifying.
Chema Buthetta put this lovely tweet post afterwards, and he was talking about the pride he has in this group, and we adore his positive glasses, we adore his enthusiasm for all things GB. When you get together, even backs against the wall a little bit, you've got to win at least one of these games. But how much is that culture that he's built up? Is that something you can lean back on?
Yeah, I mean, knowing your coach will support you no matter what is huge. Big games like that, when there's a lot of pressure, knowing that he is supportive and going to continue to be positive no matter what, I think helps us as a team continue to push and play hard because we're not worried about making mistakes and we just think next play, if we do, we know we're not going to come off and get shouted at, if you know what I mean. Chema's really great to have as a coach, especially now we've got younger players coming through. I think he's created a great team ethos, and even though there is the age gap between players, it doesn't seem to show, and I think that's down to him.
We've seen over the past 6 months, Rachel Vanderbilt retired, Joe Leadham retired, so we're down to 3 from the class of 2012, so it's just Tammy, Fi Bentley, Shelton Hanley, Azania Stewart. I hope I'm not missing anyone. Does it feel slightly as this team now belongs to a new generation like yourself and others that have come through, not even since 2020, but the last year or two even?
Yeah, I think the team is starting to evolve now into the younger generation, and it's great to still have some of the older ones there to guide us while we're kind of finding our feet. But it's just part of life, isn't it? Stuff changes, people start to retire and fall away from the game, and the new ones come in. So I think we've got to start building back up again to try and reach the successes that they did previously.
What do you learn from, particularly say Temi, who's got so much rich experience of WNBA, of been all around Europe, and she's such a powerful character, such an impressive person. But do you pick up things from just being around her?
Yeah, I think the first thing with Temi is she's just a great person, highly educated, so she's very smart. She knows the game very well, and she's a great person. I do admire her and everything she's done and where she's been. So it is great to have her on the team and learn from her.
Chem always talks about the GB way, and that's the thing that gets passed on. For those who don't get to sit inside the bubble, or be at practice or in the film rooms and stuff, how would you define that GB way?
I'd just say a big thing is the positivity and never stopping fighting. I think we're shown in the games that we do work hard and that you can count on everybody to turn up on the day and, try their hardest. Yeah, I just think we've just built this whole ethos of positivity, working hard, not quitting until the game's done,
How has that developed you as a player? We'll probably talk about that pathway, but that international stage and the senior stage, what does that add to your game, or has it added to your game, or even added to you as a person?
I think it's definitely made me more resilient. Playing the 1 at GB is like not usually my position. I usually play the 2 or the 3 now. So going from not playing it to then playing it in European basketball, it's a big step up. But it's good to be challenged. I think it makes me grow as a person and a player. Like I said, the resilience. So yeah, it's always a welcomed challenge being there at GB.
There must be a real drive though, because you've seen so many of those players, the past players, even players who are part of the team now that weren't at the Olympics, but they've played in EuroBasket finals, and they've been at tournaments. I guess, is that now sort of the big target over the next, even if it's not this time, over the 4 years hence, and to be in those tournaments and taste this for yourself?
Of course. I mean, what's the point in playing if you're not trying to win? That's what we go to camp for. That's what we play day in and day out for, to win. So whatever team we're on, whether it's GB or like our home club teams or whatever, I think the goal is always to be at the top, always be at whatever final that there is.
Obviously, you came through the ranks at Sheffield, and I'm sure we'll talk extensively about the Hatters way, which is, as the country's most successful team. Let's not just say female team. The so successful team. What was for you that initiation in basketball? Because the family's so big. Your dad Garnet played, your mum Lorraine played, your aunt Vanessa is your coach now. Mm-hmm. Was it always basketball for you, or were you one of those kids that were like, "Oh, they're all doing it, I want to do something different"?
So I grew up playing basketball, but I also had horses my mum had horses since she was 16. I got my first pony at 2. So I did both. So if I wasn't at the stables, I'd be at the court, whether my mum was coaching, dad was coaching, I was training or whatever. I didn't probably start playing properly until I was about 9. So growing up, I was just on the sidelines, running about, getting in the way. And then, I did both. But then I think it was about under 14, under 16, I kind of was like, I don't know if basketball's for me, because I kind of went through that rebel stage. I didn't want to do what everybody else was doing. And I'm like, I want to quit. But at this point, I was coached by my nan, and I think it is hard when you're getting coached by family, especially at that age. So I think that's what I found challenging. But then eventually, at 16, I chose to give up the horses, go to a basketball academy, and do the England teams and stuff like that. And then obviously I went off to America, so I couldn't do both at that point. I really did have to choose. I had to take something serious, and with horse riding, you have to have a lot of money to be able to take that seriously. And I knew I was talented at basketball, and I don't want to sound big-headed, but I feel like I was going to be more successful in basketball than horse riding.
Well, we could pick so many of those, but let's talk about your nan, the late but infinitely great Betty Cadona, who's sadly left us not really that long ago now. And I had so much admiration for Betty, as did everybody. But I would imagine, as a coach, she didn't pull any punches. What was it like having her? Because there's obviously Nan, nice Nan who gives you Christmas presents and all such like, and Nan, I imagine it probably was like you got to muck in with everyone else. Is that fair?
Yeah. I mean, it was always that tough love on the court. She was the same with everybody. I feel like everybody in the club was like a daughter, granddaughter to her. So it wasn't just me she was tough on everybody, but she had high expectations. And that was the reason why the club was so successful, because we were pushed and she held us to those high standards. And that's why we produced a lot of great players. You look in the past at Katie Crowley, Lisa Hutchinson, like Nessa, my mom, and that's all down to my nan and how she was.
How important? I mean, you're this 2 generations removed, but can you sort of sit back and appreciate the importance and the legacy, in a sense, that Betty leaves behind? Because she held so many positions within basketball. She was chair of Basketball England. She was an absolute force of nature in pushing the women's game. I mean, you must hear some of the things that she did even before you were around and think, blimey.
Yeah, I know she used to travel a lot. I think, I'm not 100% sure, she was on the board of FIBA. And, she's lived a great life. She's done a lot. She's got her OBE. So she's a woman for people to look up to and admire. She's done so much for the game. And I think most people in basketball, especially women's basketball, are quite grateful for everything she has done. My life wouldn't be the same if she didn't start this club. Sorry, my dog's shaking. If she didn't start the club, I don't know what we'd be doing as a family. Maybe I would just be horse riding, or maybe I'd be sat in my room doing nothing. But I'm glad it's turned out this way.
How much, when she sadly passed, and she was still so heavily involved and still very passionate. I mean, does it feel like now the torch has been passed to Vanessa foremost, but yourself to be part of that, to carry on? Essentially, it's a family business in a lot of ways.
Yeah, my mum and Nessa do so much. My mum runs all the junior teams and the Div 2 team. And they started stepping a little bit more with the WBBL team. Nessa basically manages the whole WBBL team, and I help where I can. Both of them, it is a lot. I mean, the volunteers have never been paid to do this stuff. I don't think people understand how much time and effort is put into it. It's like my nan would sit at a computer from 9 a.m. until 5, 6 o'clock at night in her retirement. And a lot goes into it. So, I think we all got a bit of a shock when Nan did pass, is how much we've had to step up and do as a family.
How do you feel at the club sitting now? You're someone who's is involved behind the scenes and has been in with the bricks. I mean, we had that patch a few years ago when the Hatters disappeared from the league for a year, and it was it was financial. It was about there was fears. Are the Hatters going to come back? Although it was for a year, you never know. How do you think things are now? Particularly, the BBL has all this investment, and everyone's looking at it, and there's big plans. The new CEOs, is effectively already in post. They're talking big, but WBBL's it's not. It's been they're left out of this. I mean, do you feel positive about where the Hatters, where the league sits at the moment?
I'm always optimistic. I feel like change takes time, so we have to be patient, but always hopeful and just hope it moves in the right direction. I feel like us as a club, again, moving in the right direction, joining kind of with Sharks next year in their new arena. So yeah, I think even though we had that COVID year, we've come back, we're doing great so far, and I think it'll continue. So I think it's just the Hatters way, isn't it? You talk about the GB way, but it's also the Hatters way. We just get on with it no matter what.
I mean, Betty spent so much of her time fundraising, and finding bits of money here and finding bits of money there. I mean, what's the secret or the formula for sustainability for a club like Hatters at present before the effectively a merger with the Sharks?
I'm still trying to figure that out. All I can say is she was relentless in trying to find us the funding and for us to be able to keep going. She knew a lot of people, and a lot of people admired her, and I think that's why people wanted to help us to get the funds in. So now it's a little bit of a different ball game, her not being here. So we're trying to figure it out because it is different. But yeah, it's like I said, it's figuring out as we go. But hopefully there's people out there that want to step up and sponsor us and support us because they know who we are as a club and that we are trying to continue my nan's legacy.
Do you feel it's the right time now with the Sharks' new Cannon Arena or whatever it ends up being called to grow that formal link? Because I know that Sarah Bakovic has been helping the Hatters and the Sharks chief already, so the ties are already there, and there's always been some ties between the clubs in terms of mutual support, if not financial. But does it feel like this is maybe a necessary step to both protect the Hatters, but also maybe to find that next stage now?
Yeah, I mean, Sarah's been great in helping us bring money in and meet new people. I think you look at a lot of the successful clubs, you look at London, they have joined, like the women and the men have joined. Newcastle have got their own arena, the women and the men are together. So I think it's the next step for us, and it's a step in the right direction.
Is there an importance though in trying to, even if everything must evolve, everything must change, but to keep that DNA of what's made the Hatters unique, even within some maybe a bigger organisation now?
Yeah, of course. I don't think much will change, to be honest. Like, we will always be Hatters, they will always be Sharks. We will continue to do what we do because that's why we're so successful, and they'll continue to do what they do because that's what's made them successful too.
And I'm sure the first memories, must have been of your mum and your dad, Lorraine and Garnet, playing, coaching, being around that. Describe the influence that they've, because they've both coached you or work with you. I mean, what's the sort of different influences that they've brought to bear?
I think they're very different in how they play. And my mum would always joke she never played defense, and I got that from her. And my dad, I wouldn't even say I'm that athletic, to be honest, but my dad was an athlete. My dad's always been the type to not say too much in a game, and then we'll sit and have that conversation after. They've just had very different approaches to how they've coached or kind of supported me, but I've appreciated that it is both different. They are both very different.
Was it tricky, that balance? I mean, you talked about Betty being the tough love. Was it even trickier having parents there giving you instruction?
No, I think I worked better with my mum and dad. Me and my mum were extremely close, especially when I was growing up. So I think we had a good dynamic. And then dad never coached me when I was young. So I think it was easier to listen to my dad as well, because he was kind of the outsider, if you know what I mean. So yeah, the dynamic worked quite well.
I mean, they were both formidable players in their day. Have you been able to? I don't want to be too harsh, not the black and white films, but the sort of grainy VHSs of their playing days. Have you been able to watch them?
A couple of my mom. Been some interesting games. But all I can say is my mom is very feisty. And then again, stuff I've seen of my dad is he's just an athlete. He was such a smart player. My dad could play any position because of who he was. So yeah, both my parents were very good at what they did. You've
got those two, and you've got Aunt Vanessa. Was there ever little sort of family games when you were growing up? Maybe cousin Quinn as well involved in these?
No, not really. No.
Who would be the go-to in the family team? Because you got the starting five there.
I know. I'd say now it would be Quinny. He's just amazing. I admire him so much. I think being able to watch Quinn grow up and turn into the young man he is, it's just amazing. I get emotional talking about him because he's come so far from how he was when he was young, when he used to be that little annoying child on the sideline asking his mum for money while she was coaching because he wanted to get a chocolate bar from the vending machine or he wanted to get Lucozade. To this kid that's, performing at a high level, making the GB squad. He played in the Bronny game in London. He's just amazing what he's achieving at such a young age, and I'm so proud of him.
You were all there in Newcastle, as was I a few weeks ago when he was in the team for the first time against Serbia. What was the family emotions that night, seeing him in the GB jersey lining up?
Just proud. And we knew he deserved to be there. Quinn is kind of the baby of the family now, so everybody supports him so much. He was very close to Nan, and we got a little bit emotional after the game, saying how she was looking down at him and how proud she would be. So he's got a bright future ahead of him.
Yeah, he's had his first appearance, and it's everyone speaks very highly of his potential. When you were younger, obviously coming through the Hatters system, you made that decision, like so many people, to go over to the States, and you had two different stops. You had the JUCO stop at Northwest Florida State, and then University of Central Florida as well. It's Florida's not a bad place to go if you want to head somewhere. Well done, good choices. How did that enrich the life experience for you?
I saw a whole different way of life there. Americans are very different. I feel like wherever you go, people are very different, and I think I got the shock of my life going there. When I was growing up, I will say I was a bit of an asshole, and I was quite self-centered, I will admit it. But out there gave me a big reality check. It showed me how to grow up and learn to be around different types of people, accept people for who they were and not judge people, and kind of to get knocked down a peg. Everybody is an athlete out there, everybody is talented. So I really think it challenged me as a person on and off the court to be better, and to stop living in my own little world and to realize there is a bigger world out there with a lot of like lovely people in it.
What took you into that, as you said, self-centeredness? Was it because it happens with you as a team? Was it just you, or was it influences, or what got you there?
No, it was me. It was like the whole big fish, like little sea thing growing up with my family, like owning the club. I think I was just very comfortable, and I hadn't really been around a lot of other people. Like I was always in my comfort zone. So to move out there was a huge step for me. So it definitely gave me, I'd say, not a kick up the backside, like a whole kick in the face.
What was your big kind of, I don't know if there's a light bulb moment, but that sort of, someone called it last weekend I was talking to, but that welcome to the USA moment where you go, hey kid, you're the one from overseas, and you're going to have to live up to our standards now.
Yeah, literally the moment I got out of the car and all my teammates walked up to me, and I was like, where in the world have I come? So many different people from different walks of life, and especially at the JUCO I was at, top players that might have been kicked out of schools or didn't get grades or whatever. So there was a lot of characters. So for me, from that moment, meeting people, I was like, damn, like I really got to watch my back and be careful.
Off the court, what was the biggest adjustment for you?
The big thing was the personalities and like how straight up people were. I had to be really careful with what I said, or someone would probably thump me or beat the crap out of me. So I couldn't do the whole self-centered thing, because I would get checked, and that's the thing. I had to be a good person out there. I had to respect people, and I'm not saying I didn't do that back here, but I just think it made me open my eyes more to how to be a better person and accept other people and their differences.
On the court, what was the transformation for you?
I will say I feel like I became a one-dimensional player out there. I just feel like I just shot the ball all the time, stand in the corner and shoot. Whereas before, like I wouldn't shoot the ball as much when I was like growing up. I'd drive more. So I think it changed my game in that respect, because they kind of labelled me as a shooter. So that, but I think now coming home, I'm starting to find my feet again in shooting the ball and getting to the basket. And I think my shots got better because of America. I was fortunate in the fact that at UCF I had Nikesha Sales as my position coach, who's a UConn legend, WBBL legend. And she taught me how to shoot the ball so well. The amount of shots we put up, the work we did, it was like an honour to work with her.
I do have to ask, and the thing I was curious about when I was looking up Northwest Florida State, it's not a place you necessarily trips off the tongue, but it was in a place called Niceville.
Yeah.
Did it live up to its billing?
I mean, it was a cute little town, and you're like a 20-minute drive from the white sand beaches in Clearwater, so it was a lot nicer than Sheffield is.
Oh, that's harsh in Sheffield in summer.
I mean, okay. Sheffield's lovely, but I mean, if you're wanting beaches, hot weather, it's wonderful.
It's not the place. And did you find that you talked about that one dimensionality, but do you think there though when you come back, and you went back to Spain first because it was COVID season, did you find that was an adjustment again to, especially with Spain, where it's technically such a good league, but to try and find your feet and try and find your rhythm, particularly as a shooter as well?
Yeah, it really took me a while to get going in Spain. I think because it was the COVID year and I'd left America in March and I didn't go to Spain until November. I hadn't played competitive basketball for so long. So I didn't get going until the last month of the season. So that was definitely a challenge for me mentally, because I'm like, I really suck right now. And I'm out here being paid to do this and I'm terrible. But I mean, I do have high expectations of myself, so that's it doesn't always help. But yeah, Spain was definitely a challenge. Nice to be coached by different coaches and be in a different setting. I had a lovely teammate who went to Stanford. I was really fortunate in the fact that I was with her because it was tough. A lot of my teammates didn't speak English. So at some points, like, it could feel a little bit isolating, but, you know, I was fortunate in the fact that I had Nadia as a roommate. She was so lovely, so it made the experience a lot better.
I mean, you average in Division 2 in Spain 9 points a game, 4 rebounds. You shot 34%, which, you know, is respectable enough. But you came back to Sheffield when the club got effectively rebooted in the WBBL the next year. Was there a question for you at all about coming back to Sheffield rather than taking that option of building yourself and building your reputation and a career over in mainland Europe?
I think a big thing was the Brexit. I think it just made it a lot harder overseas, and I feel like I've been away from home for so long that I needed to come back and help the family rebuild. I also wanted to buy a house, and that was a big focus for me. And I'm not afraid, like, I don't mind working a full-time job. For me, I'm very money focused. And I feel like it'd take me time to build up my income abroad to where I'd want it to be. So I felt like coming home, helping rebuild the Hatters, finding my feet on the property ladder is what's been important at the moment. I don't know if I will go abroad again in the future, or I might just kind of wait until I'm ready to coach and I might go back to the States in the future. But I'm trying not to think too far ahead at the moment and not get ahead of myself.
Do you feel like the league is at a standard now where you can keep going your game and you can keep being challenged?
Yeah, definitely. The teams are getting better because more money's coming into the league. They're bringing in better players. So I think that's great because I like to be challenged. I don't like blowout games. So it's good that there are teams like Leicester and Seven Oaks that are challengers. I definitely need to continue to see growth in some of the other teams, but it's coming. But like I said earlier, everything's a process and it takes time.
You've had a 4-1 start this season. You're hosting Caledonia, a team above you this season, this Sunday. Do you feel like, obviously, London's budget, because they're in Euro Cup, is phenomenal, and they have done a land grab of some of the best British talent, as well as former WNBA talent. Do you feel that you can compete in the same way? Obviously, that we're talking about the BBL, but do you feel that Hatters can still compete and chase honours, or does it feel like it's playing for second now?
I think we can compete with London. I think it's very tough to beat them, but I think we're always just open to it. Like, we're always open-minded and we'll always strive to try and win every game we play. We don't go into it thinking, we're going to get spanked by London. You can't have that mindset in basketball. So we definitely always look to compete no matter what. Like, if we get blown out, then that's an issue. We should never be blown out by anybody because, defense comes first. If you play good defense and stop teams from scoring so much, you don't have to score as much to keep up with them. So a lot of that comes down to heart, I think, and we do have that. It's just sometimes we don't have it for 40 minutes. So yeah, we can compete with teams like London. We just hope eventually we'll get the funding to be able to grow our team and maybe have the whole Euro Cup experience as well.
Yeah, because obviously your mum would have played in Europe, and Vanessa would have played in Europe in the old Ronchetti Cup. Do you think if the league grows that should be something that clubs beyond Lions are aiming for?
Yeah, I mean, I think every club's goal is to be able to pay all their players, have that money, be able to play at a higher standard. So yeah, I think that's across the league. Any team would love to have that. It's just waiting until you have that back in. Off
the court, you run a lot of the schools work and you run a lot of the community network of Hatters now. I mean, tell us about that. I mean, how extensive? I mean, I went once to a Sunday or Saturday morning session, one of the two at All Saints, and it was packed, and it was so busy, and it was really impressive. And where does it sit at the moment?
So my mom has worked really hard on those CBLs on a Sunday morning. We have our hot shot sessions, which is for like primary school. We have a session for secondary school girls. So every school we're in, we give out leaflets, encourage girls to come down, watch the games, and kind of show them like there is other sports apart from football. You find that football starts so early for them. Or they're doing netball or whatever, but we like to go into schools and show them that there is other sports out there that, if you work hard, you're probably more likely to make it in, because you know how hard it is in sports like football. So yeah, we're doing that. We're in a lot of schools. We run the Hot Shots program where schools play against each other, so they have like little competitions. It's a constant work in progress, getting young girls in and to help them find their love of basketball.
I mean, you have that great advantage in that you can wear the GB jersey in, and you can talk about the places you've been and the opportunities you've had. Mm-hmm. Do you have that pitch, or do you feel you have to make maybe more of a pitch now because netball has grown and it's put itself front and center? You've got women's football, which is grown exponentially over the past decade. There's much more of a fight now, particularly in female sports, to capture athletic talent, capture girls of all abilities and shapes and sizes to choose basketball.
Yeah, I mean, it's always going to be tough when you're competing against other sports, but I do think basketball is on the up, just slowly. A lot of people, I find that you've got a lot more kids wearing Jordans and wearing jerseys and knowing who LeBron James is. And I know you're not hearing about Kelsey Plum or Asia Wilson or whatever WNBA players, but it's a start. So I think, it's always going to be tough to try and reach like the football kind of level. But I mean, that's what we're all here for. We're going to keep continuing to help grow basketball.
If you could add one WNBA player to the Hatters team, who would you pick?
Oh, good question. I will go. I like how Asia Wilson plays. Very talented.
So I was thinking you were going to say her teammate Kelsey Plum. I think the two of you guys in the backcourt, that would be fun. I'd pay to watch that. I
think no. I'm gonna stay with Asia.
Yeah. Oh, but that'd be impressive. We need to get her over here. Whether we could afford her in this league, I don't know. But still, you can always.
I think we'd have to sell our house to be able to afford her
for one game.
Right.
such as the pay level. But there you go. I mean, you mentioned about all the off-court work. I mean, the minute you're working as a teaching assistant in a school in Rotherham, I mean, and you've been working for a charity as well. I mean, what is the next step? Alongside basketball, what's the career plan?
I couldn't tell you. I'm just kind of taking it as it comes at the moment. I don't know what I want to do. I'd love to coach, but there's no money in it. And now having the house, I really have to think sensibly financially. So at the moment, it's just continuing with the teaching stuff, trying to grow basketball for us as a club. And then maybe in the future, it might be going to America to coach, or hoping we get some investment and we can, if I stop playing and I coach, I get paid to coach here. Just don't know, really. I'm just very open and trying not, like I said earlier, not looking too far into the future.
It must be a bit saddening or despairing in a way, though, that, for someone that wants to coach, we've seen Joe Leadham recently, his assistant coach in the States finished, didn't have an option here. Your Aunt Vanessa, is not getting rich off coaching. That she's incredibly talented. She works very hard, but the paid positions in this country, particularly for female coaches, you could probably count it in one hand, if not even that. I mean, when you look forward to careers, it's a bit depressing, isn't it?
It is. But this is the life we've chosen. We know how it is. We've accepted it. So hopefully something comes about. If not, we will just get on with it. That's just how me and my family are. We always figure it out.
Let's end on something a bit more upbeat. What's the ambitions now? I mean, you talked about winning EuroBasket. I mean, do you? I know you don't set yourself sort of particularly long-term goals, but you know, what do you feel that? Where can you take your game to this next level?
So yeah, EuroBasket, and then at Hatters, I definitely think hopefully some investment comes. We can start to grow our team, be successful in the league, hopefully trying to beat teams like London, and then looking to go into Europe. And then I think also if we ever had the money to be able to get our young teams being able to play abroad. Obviously not like Euro Cup, but I'd love to give the girls a challenge of playing in different countries to be able to get a taster of maybe playing professionally in the future if they want to go abroad, or hopefully staying and playing for Hatters.
And if anyone wants to invest in Hatters that's listening to this, what would they get for their money? Here's your pitch.
You will get a family-run, successful women's basketball team, and emphasis on the family. We are a family. We always strive to be inclusive, getting girls active, being part of something bigger, and hopefully creating positive futures for a lot of people.
And that is very important. Those positive futures that kids get the chance, particularly at these tough times of cost of living and all that stuff. But yeah, the Hatters do such great work in that. So there you go. If you're listening and you've got a few million down the back of the sofa, reach out to Georgia, and then full-time jobs. There you go. That's the start of it as well. Georgia, always great seeing your evolution as a player, and I'm sure as a coach that we'll see in the years ahead. But hope the cough gets better, and keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining us. That is it for this edition of the MVP Cast. Don't forget you can get all our previous editions via your preferred podcast provider, or you can head to MVP 24/7. It still lives, and you can get your podcast there. If you want to reach out to me, you can get me on Twitter at Mark Britball. Another edition of the podcast coming very, very soon. But for me, Mark Woods, thank you so much as always for your company. We'll see you next time.